I'm going to be sharing with you in this video why motivation is the biggest lie ever invented. And you don't actually need motivation to create the life that you really want. You don't actually need to be motivated, and you don't need to feel like doing what you want to do. And you don't actually need it. I'm going to share with you what to do instead in this video so that you can actually have what you want regardless of the emotional state that you might be feeling, because your emotions will lie to you a lot of the times. So if you want to work with me, all the details to do that will be down below. Now, what I want to start off this video with is the understanding that you don't actually need motivation. You don't need motivation. Motivation is not what you need. What you really need is to make a choice on who you are. That is the real key to manifestation that I personally found, and actually getting results. Because it's like, look, some days you might wake up in bed and you might feel like you don't want to be that person. But the thing that I've come to realize is that once you make a choice on who you are, well, first of all, let me ask you this. What is it that led you to be making that choice to begin with? It was usually maybe some kind of experience that was not so pleasurable. And so through experience and through wisdom, you've realized that certain things that you've already done before didn't work. It didn't help you to feel how you wanted to feel. It made you feel maybe a little bit lethargic, to say the least, or maybe something much worse than that. So that led you to make a choice. And so with this new, insight that you've come to realize, where you've made a choice to be this new individual, whatever area of life it might be, whether it's around your health, or maybe it's around your business, or maybe it's about becoming some kind of a person that you know you need to be in order to attract a particular kind of relationship. Whatever the case may be for you, what I've come to realize is that, look, if you don't feel like being that new person, and you're not willing to gain momentum in that new direction, well, what's the alternative? The alternative is just to keep repeating the same types of experiences that you've already been experiencing, which you know is going to lead you down a particular kind of result. And you simply know where that road is going to take you, because old behaviors and old patterns and old habits, if you want to call it that, although I don't necessarily resonate with the word habit, because habit kind of implies that you're not choosing a new state that resonates with your new identity moment to moment, and you're perhaps attached to some old way of being. And really, like, habits are good, but eventually you want to drop this concept of doing the same thing over and over and over, and continually improving, always becoming a better version of who you are, and becoming just better, just becoming much, much better, and becoming a more epic human being. So you maybe wake up one day in bed and you don't feel like being that person, but well, what is the alternative? To be the same thing you've already done. So it's not about how you feel, it's about making a choice to be a new person, simply regardless of how you feel, regardless of your emotional state. Because the thing is that once you start to go in that new direction, then you'll actually start to feel a lot better. And then when you have that contrast, you're like, oh, this feels so much better, and you have momentum in the new reality, what will happen is that then you won't feel like doing the old thing that you used to do. You see what I'm saying? So what you feel, and I always talk about this, and I really feel like most people don't see the significance of this, where it's like what you feel like doing. What you feel like doing is completely relative to the identity that you're embodying, and who you're actually being, and what you continually program yourself to be. So why is it that one person can see something and be like, oh, disgusting, gross, I'm repulsed by that. Another person is like, oh, I'm so attracted to that. because everybody is in a different identity, different frequency, and we have relative, we're attracted to things relative to who we are being. So this means that it's not about how you feel, really. It's about who you decide to be and following through with that, seeing kind of what that frequency is like, not by checking for the result, but just by being it, embodying it. And then through embodiment, then you get to see if you're enjoying it and if it's your preference. And if it's making you feel better, then you keep doing it. You keep doing the thing that makes you feel better. You just keep going in the direction that you know is allowing you to feel much better. And so the more that you do this, you start to realize that how you feel really doesn't even matter. And motivation really is just like one of the biggest lies that people will try to sell you on. It's like, oh, you need to feel motivated. It's like, no, I don't need to feel motivated. Sometimes, honestly, I wake up feeling not really motivated. And then guess what? But I know who I am. I know the choices that I've made, and I'm gonna make a dedication in that moment to continually go in that direction. And then surprise, once again, I don't feel like doing the old thing. I don't feel like doing that. So feelings are fleeting, right? But if you want to use the word discipline, you can use the word discipline. This is about being disciplined and going in the direction that your heart really wants, regardless of how you feel. Now, this might sound contradictory to some previous information that I've shared. It's like, well, Francis, you've said in the past to always trust how you feel. So what are you really trying to tell us here? Are you just like changing the way you see the world? Or are you changing your beliefs now? Well, it's not about necessarily that I'm changing my beliefs. It's more about the fact that, yes, I encourage everybody to always trust how they truly feel and their intuition, regardless of anything in life. Your intuition, how you truly feel, is ultimately going to be king and always going to be your highest source of wisdom in each moment. But I've also shared that who you decide to be is what allows you to have that compass, and your feelings and what you feel can only be truly honored when we have a compass. That compass can actually be at its full effect when we know who we are being and when we know where we are going. It's just so critical. So another thing that I want to share with you as well is that how you feel in quotations doesn't really matter. It's about start taking action and you will feel a lot better. Right? So you might be thinking like, maybe you want to start a YouTube channel, maybe you want to start a business. You're like, I don't feel like starting a YouTube channel. I don't feel like creating art right now. I don't feel like doing this thing in my life that I know I want to do in my mind, but I don't. My emotions are telling me I don't want to do it. Well, what are you really listening to here? Are you listening to some momentum of the past? Maybe you've been doing some habits, maybe doing some things on autopilot for who knows how many years. Is that what you're listening to? You know what I mean? Are you listening to that? If you're listening to that, what's happening is that perhaps you are not listening to the right thing. Your mind is important here. You got to use your mind a little bit. So what I want to share with you to really conclude this video, to really let this point hit home, is to understand that doing what you want to do is easier as well. I want to share as well, is much easier than staying stuck in the old habits and the old reality. It's much, much easier. So you might think like, I don't feel like doing this, and then you listen to that, and then you feel worse, and then you feel worse, and then you feel worse. When I've listened to like, I don't feel like doing this, but despite what I know I need to be, what I want to be, I usually feel worse than if I was just to get up and go do the thing that I know I need to do. You know what I mean? I feel a lot better if I just go get up and go do the thing. So it's like, for example, if I'm like laying in bed, and nothing wrong with laying in bed, right? If you feel you need rest, then rest. But if I know that I'm resting too much and I feel out of balance, you know what? I've done it before. I'll just let myself be in that sort of like lower state. I'll let myself kind of like be there for a little bit. And then I see that and I'm like, okay, what did I get from that? Nothing. I got nothing from that. And then so I get up and I just go do something that makes me feel better. right? Through experience, I've learned like, oh yeah, this makes me, so I'll do everything fully. Every desire that I've ever had in my life, that I have as well, I do it completely fully. And I learned through experience that actually, even if I let myself be that person that I know I don't want to be and let myself bathe in the old reality, I see, okay, well, I just got nothing from that. My vibration didn't increase. My feeling state didn't increase. So actually not doing the thing that I know I want to be makes me feel terrible, or at least stuck in the old reality. Now, the funny thing is that if you just get up and you just go be that new person, you'll realize that you feel a lot better. And through this process, you begin to gain trust, and you start to trust yourself a lot more, because you realize that actually growing and developing is your natural state, and actually moving forward and expanding your consciousness and expanding who you are is much, much, much easier than not. Because people always think like, oh my gosh, if I start my YouTube channel, if I start my business, I don't think I finished that point earlier. If I go in this direction, it's going to be so difficult. It's going to be so hard. Have you considered the point that actually it's going to be harder, much, much harder to not become that person that you want to be? That's going to be the more difficult path. It's going to be harder for you not to be disciplined, if you want to use that word. It's going to be much harder for you not to go do what you want to do. Just relying on motivation is going to be harder than relying on consistency and being who you want to be, regardless of how motivated you feel. If you're just always relying on motivation, you're always going to be, a slave to your own emotional states. You're going to be a slave to your emotions. You're going to be a slave to how you feel. But personally, I don't want to be a slave to how I feel. I want to be in control of how I feel. I want to be in control of my thoughts. I want to be in control of my actions. And in the long term, I want to be in control of my emotional state. That doesn't mean that sometimes I'm not going to feel sad, and at other times I'm not going to feel happier. Of course not. That's not what I'm saying. Sometimes I feel happier, sometimes I feel more sad. Sometimes I feel more motivated and more excited about life, and sometimes I feel less motivated and less excited about life. But who I am never is going to change despite all of that. Who I truly am is always going to stay balanced no matter how I feel. That doesn't mean that I'm going to be taking action all the time if I don't feel like really taking action. Not necessarily either. It's a balancing act. See, being a human being is the ultimate balancing act. It's the ultimate. Sometimes you might feel like doing things, sometimes you might not feel like doing things, but there's this consistency and this kind of consistent balancing point energy that you want to get into, where in the bigger picture, who you are does not rely on motivation and just feeling alone to be who you are. You don't rely on just feeling alone to be who you are. You rely on feeling, yes, but also decisions. See, it's a combination of making a decision and also trusting how you feel, and combination of those things. It's not just about making choices and ignoring how you feel. That's going to lead down a terrible path. And it's not just about, trust my feelings, but I don't know who I am and I don't make any choices. That's all it's going to down a terrible path. I always talk about this, and I will continue to talk about this, because I think it's the most important information that people fail to understand, is the balancing act of both making a choice and trusting your emotions. Right? And there's this common theme that I talk about a lot on my channel, which is the balancing act of these two things. And I think that if people were to really understand this and actually dedicate themselves to balancing themselves, what they would realize is that then they are truly starting to develop themselves in the bigger picture. Sometimes you're gonna fall back. But even if you fall back, because you have this bigger picture understanding, you're gonna jump back quickly. You're gonna say, okay, I learned from my mistakes and I'm gonna move forward. Even though I don't feel motivated, it doesn't matter, because, I don't feel motivated because I made a mistake, right? And so I'm not gonna allow this past decision to define my state and define my next decision. I'm not gonna allow my past to define the decisions that I'm making now for who I want to be now. In a way, you do want to do that because you want to learn from your past, but at the same time though, You don't want to be allowing the failure to define who you are. And that feeling that you feel, maybe you wake up in the morning and you don't feel like doing that thing, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you feel. You need to get up and go do it anyways, because you start moving forward and you feel a lot better. So let me know if this makes sense. Leave a comment down below. I'd love to share. I'd love for you to share your thoughts on this, and I'd love to know what you have to say. Once again, if you want to work with me one-on-one personally, all the details to that will be down below. As always, enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next video.